Hey, it's Lisa Ryan, Chief Appreciation Strategist at Grategy, right here in beautiful Cleveland, Ohio. Very excited to be with you today through this program through Toy Fair University on how that you can keep your top talent from becoming someone else's. And as we get started, I always like to ask this question. Do you suffer from way too much appreciation? People coming up to you all the time and saying, thank you so much for the amazing work you do. Your vendors and suppliers saying, I just love working with you. Your employees saying, you totally rock. No? Well, the good news is you are in the right place. Because when it comes to company culture, it's everyone's responsibility. It doesn't matter your role in your organization. Where you're at the top in the C-suite, maybe you're at that manager supervisor level, you're an individual contributor, or anyone in between, you make a difference when it comes to creating the type of culture that makes people want to stay with you. So take a moment and think about your best boss, favorite boss of all time. Maybe that person was somebody who saw more in you than you saw in yourself. They challenged you, but they acknowledged you. You felt valued and appreciated. And I hope you've had that kind of boss in your career because chances are that we've had all kinds of bosses. I like to call the three types of bosses my A team. Why? Because they all begin with the letter A. And no, that's not one of them. So, first of all, we have that amazing boss. Again, that person who challenged you, you respected, you went above and beyond for that person, and were probably providing more effort and productivity than you were actually being paid for because of your relationship. Then you had some bosses that they were just, not creating a big blip on your radar. They were just average. But then we have that third A, that awful boss that was probably everything else. They were willing to throw you under the bus. They didn't give you the acknowledgement that you wanted. It seemed that they only berated you or caught you when things are going wrong. Here's the thing when it comes to leadership. You probably, as a leader, will raise your people the way that you were raised. So if you only worked for bosses who criticized you, condemned you, only focused on when things were going wrong, guess what? You'll probably do the same to your people. But if you know what it's like to feel valued, appreciated, like you're part of something that's bigger than you, chances are you're going to do the same for your people. Because what we're looking for, we want that basic human connection not only in our lives, but in the workplace as well. And we are not going back to the good old days. It has been a really weird last couple of years. But when we think about it, the good old days was 2019. And so we have to realize that every single aspect of business is different today than it was just a mere couple years ago. Not only have our priorities changed, technologies changed, people on the market have changed. They're definitely not as easy to find as they used to be. So when we work so hard to find good employees, it's really important that we keep them. And it's not just about the money. We think that it is all the time. How many times am I hearing, I can't find people, I can't pay these people enough money, people are lazy, they just don't want to work anymore? Yes, they do, but their priorities have changed. And when we take the time to get to know our employees, we can make a huge difference. Here's the thing, your company culture didn't happen overnight. And it's not going to change overnight either. And it really comes down to these two words, gratitude and strategy. or as I like to call it, your Grategy. And that's what we're going to focus on today, giving you some specific ideas, actions, and strategies so that you can create the workplace culture that rocks. So, just a little bit about my background. I'm actually born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. I have been here literally my entire life. I started my career as an executive recruiter. Actually, one of the few people on the planet who can actually say they sold their mother. Now, mom hated the job that I placed her in. I said, Mom, you've got to stay there at least 90 days because I have a guarantee and I can't afford to give back the commission I made on you. Thankfully, mother was there for 2.5 years. From there, I went into industrial sales, and from there, I went into healthcare. But what changed everything was in 2009 when I went on a fire walk. Now, this is not a euphemism. This is actually a walk across a 12-foot bed of red hot burning embers. Except for the going back and forth thing, it does look like that. So, to answer your two logical questions that come next, no, I did not get burned. And no, I have no idea why I didn't get burned. But as we were driving home, my friends and I wanted to keep that energy because how many other times had we gone to programs where we're all excited about what we just learned, and then we go back, life slaps us upside the head, and we go right back to where we were before? Well, we didn't want that to happen again. So we opened up a Facebook thread, and every day we shared with each other people we met, things we learned, experiences that we had. And one of my friends said, Why don't we share 3 things we're grateful for? Okay. We did that every day, and we held each other accountable. And that was the practice that literally changed everything. I was in medical sales at the time. Customers I hadn't talked to for months were calling me, Hey, can you come in and sell me some stuff? I would be right there. There were 2 large facilities I'd been calling on for almost 5 years that closed effortlessly. I noticed the difference from my husband, who was becoming more verbally appreciative. So all of these things had changed, but the only thing that I had changed was that practice of gratitude. So after reading hundreds, if not thousands, of articles and white papers and attending books and attending programs and reading books to see is gratitude more than this feel good emotion, I found out that it was. One of the first books I read was called Thanks by Dr. Robert Emmons. He's a PhD professor at the University of California at Davis. And if you're interested in more resources on positivity, go to the Greater Good Science Center, where in 2014 they received a $7 million grant just to study gratitude. That's how important this is. But Dr. Emmons, in one of his studies, took a random group of students, divided them into 3. The first group, he had them write down the things they were grateful for. Second group, all the troubles, hassles, things that bugged them. Third group simply recorded the day's events. They were the control group. After 10 weeks, the gratitude group was 25% happier. Now, you might be saying, Lisa, how do you actually know they were 25% happier? Well, when Dr. Emmons presented his findings, he did so in a pie chart. And we know that pie makes everybody happy. No, for about 10 weeks before the study, he had them write down headaches, backaches, relationships, stress levels, all those things, so that he could separate the chronically happy people from, let's call them, the chronically crabby people, and saw that 25% increase. The gratitude group exercised on average an hour and a half more per week than the other 2 groups. They complained less often. Wouldn't that be nice? They had fewer physical ailments. Can you think of a time in our lives where we have been more focused on our immune system? And I have a whole other program on that. But by choosing positive emotions, we can reduce stress, improve our immune system, our heart, all of these things just from incorporating things like gratitude. The gratitude group was more happy, joyful, enthusiastic. And then when Dr. Emmons interviewed the people who were associated with the gratitude group to see if they noticed any difference, he found they did. They were much more emotionally available. They were nicer to be around. So we know that gratitude works in our personal life, but it works in our business life too. And that's why I like to start these programs with that foundation of gratitude, because when you see and when you experience the good for yourself, it makes it much easier for you to take some of these ideas into the workplace and experience the benefits that come along with it. Because you know what? It starts with you. I know that sometimes you're just having a bad day and people have to understand that. You don't know what happened to that employee 5 minutes before they came into your day. Are you going to make their day a little bit better? Or are you going to make it a little bit worse? So here are the 5 Grategies that we're going to talk about today. But the thing to keep in mind is don't have this be another flavor of the week, because you know you've done this before. You've gone to that seminar, you've gone to that conference where you come home, you're taking notes, and you come home with 82 items, and you want these things done in now. You want them done yesterday. And your employees are saying, "Oh no, she just got back from another one of those conferences. Let's ignore everything they say for the next 2 weeks until things go back to normal." Choose one. Choose one thing that you can commit to. Now, you can take lots of notes and you can decide, you can prioritize what's going to work best for you and your people, but start there. So the first strategy, one, is to be accessible. Know your people by name. Know a little bit about them. One of my favorite tools for that is the All About Me sheet, where you can find out what's their favorite candy bar, what's their favorite gift card, how do they like to receive recognition, public or private. Walking through the store and just being able to say, "Hey, how are you doing today? What can I do to help? What resources do you need?" Checking in. Because if you walk by into the store and you have an employee who's usually pretty chipper, and you walk by and you say, "Hey, how are you?" "Oh, I'm okay." You can either stop and say, "What's going on? You're not your normal self today." Or you can go right to your office because you're busy, you have things to do, but you don't know if that was the day that that person was thinking about putting together their resume. If I stop and say, "Hey, what's going on? You're not your usual self today." That employee might say, "You know what? Lisa really cares about me, and I'm just having a bad day. I'm going to stick it out." But if I just notice that and breeze right to my office and don't say anything, the person's going to be like, why am I wasting my time here? Nobody cares about me. I'm going to go somewhere else to see if somebody does. It's accessibility. Remember when I was selling electrical cord and cable? I was working for a company that was started by Mort Mandel in the 1940s. He was selling fasteners out of the trunk of his car. And we were having our company picnic, hot dogs and potato salad in the parking lot. And Mort Mandel was there. And I'm 23 years old. I got a little starstruck, I have to say. And I went up to him. I'm like, "Mr. Mandel, it's such a pleasure to get to meet you. And I'm so honored to work for your company." I don't even know. I was blathering like a 23-year-old little fangirl. By the time I got back to my office, the office was a Twitter. And this was way before Twitter. Because my coworkers were saying, "Why did you talk to Mort? What did you say to Mort? What did he say to you?" Because back in those days, what I should have done was ask my boss, who asked his boss, who asked her boss, who asked their boss, "Is it okay if Lisa says hello to Mr. Mandel?" That doesn't work anymore. Because when we have younger generations coming into the workplace, your millennials and Gen Z in particular, they've had access to leadership since they were yay high. I think back, and when I was growing up, my parents would be like, "We're going on vacation to Florida." And now it's your turn to pick where we're going on vacation this year. Where would you like to go? And they expect that same level of access in the office. So when that brand new employee just comes into your office, they've been there for 3 days, they're like, you know what? I'd like to sit down and talk to you. I see some things that I think would be made better about there. And you're doing everything you can so your eyes do not roll back in your head. Stop. Listen to them. They see the world differently. And sometimes, if your attitude is, why should I make friends with these people? They're just going to be gone in 6 weeks anyway. What if you did befriend them? What if you did take just a couple moments out of your day to connect with that person? You may be the reason that they stay. So look for ways that you can give access, whether it be having coffee with you, town hall meetings, whatever it is. But let your employees know, because as a leader, they see you differently, and let them know that you care about them. The second one, collect feedback. Now, one of my favorite ways to do that is called the stay interview. Now, uh, I know that you may be familiar with the exit interview. Frankly, I think that's a little late. You're like, hey, why are you leaving? Stay interviews can be as simple as, what do you like about working here? And when you ask that question, now you have fodder for attracting more people, because you can say in the interview process, these are the things that my employees like about working here. Now, the second question is not, tell me 3 things you hate about working here, because that would not get you anywhere. But if you were me, tell me 3 things that you would change. Well, what keeps you here? What would cause you to leave? What's the favorite part of your day? What's the least favorite part of your day? So we can find out these things. If you're doing employee surveys, which are great to have, give your managers the resources to act on the ideas and suggestions they come up with. There's so many there's so many resources out there for just short, regular check-ins with your employees. Remember, they want your feedback. They want access. Sometimes we're afraid to give feedback because we think that they only want good feedback. No, your employees want to be better tomorrow than they are today. And by continuously asking them, and yes, you are going to have employees that try to jack you. They're going to try to take advantage of you. It's just what it is. But that's really a small percentage. And unfortunately, a lot of times we make decisions based on the 3 to 5% of employees who are going to take advantage of us versus the 95% of good, honest, hardworking people that we have. Err on the side of your good employees. Next, share the mission. What is it that you actually do to make the world a better place, to make your community, your city, your state, your country, the world, the planet a better place? People want to be connected to that mission. Now, in the toy industry, of course, you already have a built-in mission. I mean, you're supplying fun and entertainment and education to people. You're giving people the opportunity to create relationships, to learn, to enjoy their time together, to explore and discover. But what is it for your specific company? What are some specific stories that you can share on how you make a difference, on what how people have received you, on what you've done again to build community? Collect those stories and make sure that they are part of your social media outreach, that they're part of allowing your employees to share their stories and their good times. Collect those stories and look for what that deep mission is. Listen to your customers who also share how you've made a difference for them, because then you can share that with your employees, both new and established employees, so that you keep that pride going on, that joy, that commitment to working for you. Next, invest in training. Now, a lot of times people say, Lisa, why should I spend all that money investing in training programs? My employees are just going to take that training and leave anyway. Well, let me ask you, what if you don't invest in them and they stay? Your employees are looking for opportunities to be better tomorrow than they are today. And it doesn't take a lot of time, energy, resources, even doing things like lunch and learns. And you might say, at least I've tried those before and nobody shows up. Did you ask your employees maybe what they want to learn about? There's a million hours of content being uploaded to YouTube every single day. It's the conversations and the relationships that come as a result of people learning together and exploring together. Give them those opportunities. And when you have somebody that wants to pursue training, give them those opportunities to do it, because the money that you invest in that is going to be a pittance compared to what it costs for you to replace people. And look at training as an investment. There's too many times, and believe me, from a person who has done a lot of contract training, public seminars, and that is where managers get a flyer in the mail and they send their employees to training because they're broken. You can almost feel the hatred oozing off of these people because they were sent to training. Instead, invest in your people, especially your new supervisors. Because if you just took your best hourly employee and promoted them to supervisor, you've just created your worst supervisor without training. Give them the opportunity to be around other new supervisors so that they can ask questions in a safe environment and learn. When your employees know that you value them enough to invest in them, you're giving them more opportunities to stay. And that's even asking them, what do you want to learn? And here's a little secret, use the employees that you have for some of that training, because your employees know stuff. And maybe by giving them the visibility to share the things that they learn, they're going to feel even more valued and more respected by their colleagues, and also saving you lots of training dollars in the process. And finally, we move on to acknowledging excellence. Catch your employees in the act of doing things well. A lot of times in leadership, we look at when things are going really, really well and we acknowledge that. And we also acknowledge when things are going really, really poorly. When things are just going like they're supposed to, we don't. Let's change that. Marshall Lasada did a study where he looked at the dynamics of teams. And what he found on a high performing team was a 6-to-1 positivity ratio. What does that mean? For every one negative comment a person on that team would hear, they'd hear 6 positives. And it wasn't all, oh, yay, everything you do is so good. It's, you know what? That's a good start to an idea. Let's see how we can build on it. On an average performing team, that number drops in half, 3 positives for every 1 negative. And at 3-to-1, your employees are at neutral. That's where the quiet quitters hang out. And even though it's a new term, it's not new. When employees don't feel valued and appreciated, they will give you exactly the amount of work that they're being paid for and not an iota more. Quiet quitting is not bad, because they're doing the work they were paid to do. They're just not going above and beyond like the top tier are. And then we have that bottom tier where your problem children hang out. On those teams, Marshall Lasada discovered a 0.3-to-1 positivity ratio. In other words, they were hearing 3 times more negatives than positives. If you are not comfortable acknowledging your employees because that's just not your personality, or you're not really extroverted and it makes you uncomfortable, do it anyway. Look at it like a science experiment. How can you let that employee know that you're noticing specifically what it is they're doing that's better than their efforts before? comparing that person to their own efforts, not to one of your rock star employees. Catch people in the act of doing things well. And look for ways as well to put in peer to peer recognition, because that also brings some more accountability. Because if colleagues working together know that they can feel recognized and valued by their teammates, chances are good, again, they're going to have more of that commitment. They're going to build those relationships. So I do have a gift for you. This is my newest book. It's Thank You Very Much. Gratitude Strategies to Create a Workplace Culture That Rocks. In this, you're going to get all kinds of ideas and strategies and specific information that you can use. It's not designed to be read cover to cover. Basically, find a chapter that you like and start there. And then I also post a lot on LinkedIn. So if you'd like to connect with me there, you'll get videos and articles and everything else that I post, you'll have access to. Don't worry, I don't sell on LinkedIn, so you don't have to be subjected to that. When you text the word engage to 66866, you'll get a text back from me asking for your first name and email address. The reason why I say that is ask for first name is because if your email address is mike.brown@abc.com, it's easy for me to say, hey, Mike. But if your email address is hotbikerdude@yahoo, I don't want to go there. So then when you get that, you'll have another response from me thanking you, and then you will get the PDF of that book. So again, just looking for ways to continue the conversation and give you some additional tools that we don't have time for in this very short video. My husband was actually part of the Great Resignation. He had been with the company for 13 years, and after being furloughed during the pandemic, he knew that he was not happy there. So we updated his LinkedIn profile, put it out there, but when there's lots and lots of people furloughed, nothing happened. He got called back to work in December, and I just saw his motivation and his spirit decreasing as the months went by. Well, in July of the following year, he got a call from one of the companies on LinkedIn. And the day before his birthday present was a job offer. Now, Scott was in his new job for 2 weeks. And he called me and he's like, you're not going to believe what happened. I'm like, honey, what happened? Somebody from the sales department came in and thanked me for helping them with the project. I said, honey, that's the way companies were supposed to work. But in 13 years of being in his last company, he didn't get that day-to-day acknowledgement. And then the CEO of his company, third generation CEO, comes into Scott's office. He's the new guy. And she says, oh, I see your wife is keynoting at our industry conference. How cool is that? Scott's like, the new CEO is talking to me? I was at that other company for 13 years and barely had any contact with the CEO. Scott is an accountant, so he likes everything in its place, and he didn't think that he could ever work from home until his boss started working from home on Wednesdays and Fridays. So guess who works from home now? Scott and I actually went to a funeral a couple months ago from a guy that he used to work with, and some of his ex-colleagues were there. They were looking at him going, what's up with you? You seem so happy. You may have heard that saying, happy wife, happy life. I will tell you what, happy husband changed life. It's the little things that matter. What did his company do well? They acknowledge excellence. On a regular basis, Scott is thanked and acknowledged for what he does. They're accessible. Even when he's working from home, I can hear the telltale chimes of the Teams meetings that he's being invited to. Offering flexibility. Again, on days that he has a doctor's appointment, his company trusts him enough to work from home. Now, maybe in your industry, in your store, people have to be there. But flexibility of some kind is an expectation. We ask ourselves ways that we can be creative to give that flexibility that employees want. And thank your people. Catch them in the act of doing things well. Err on the side of positivity. So people feel valued. They feel that you're investing in them and they feel that they are making a difference. Company culture is everyone's responsibility. So, in the things that we've talked about today, accessibility, mission, training, recognizing excellence, getting feedback, choose one that you're going to commit to. And when you do that over the long run, that, my friends, is how you keep your top talent from becoming someone else's. I'm Lisa Ryan, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. And if you'd like to stay in touch, here's my contact info.